Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julian and this is my quest to reach TBR 0, aka read every single book that I own. I have a mountainous TBR, if it was even all in one place, which is not. Most of it's at my house, some of it's at my parents' house, in my childhood bedroom. I dream of getting to a point where I can have it all in one place and count it up and have like a proper kind of countdown. But this is not that time. This is my month 15, aka September 2024 recap. Most months I do a vlog. Some months I have done a recap when I've been too ill / busy to properly vlog. And this month was both. I was both ill a lot and too busy to vlog. So there we go. Double whammy. But here I am with a lovely in-depth recap for you. So feast your ears and eyes and prepare to hear a lot of chat about books. I hope that you enjoy it. If you do, please do subscribe. In fact, you can do it now so you don't forget. Yes, I am doing that annoying YouTuber thing of getting the subscription thing right in at the beginning. But there we go. You should be used to that by now. You're on YouTube. Right, opening up Goodreads so I can remind myself what I read this month. So, the first book that I finished reading was A Graphic Guide to Music Therapy. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a kind of factual graphic book. Cartoons, infographic type things, you name it, it's there. All about music therapy. I didn't know very much about art therapy in general before reading this book, so it was a really nice kind of primer on that topic. I think I first mentioned it in my August vlog. And yeah, finished it here. The same thing is true, mentioning it in my August vlog, of the next book I finished reading, The Membership Economy. I was mostly reading this on the way to work to kind of get me in the kind of like business, corporate mood and think about how I could apply some of the principles outlined in this book to the world of higher education, which is the industry I work in. And I had some interesting ideas, some interesting thoughts, and yeah, I enjoyed it. There we go. The next book I finished reading was actually a library print book, Bad Influence by Tamsin Winter. So it's about a gal who's bullied at school and she's really desperate to fit in, and kind of what she does in an attempt to fit in and get people to like her. She has some funny ideas about what will work, but also she does something that somebody takes advantage of. And yeah, she ends up in trouble. And the book is kind of telling the story of how this all transpired. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Then I listened to Into the Moon Garden on Audible. This is a sort of like mystical kind of magical novella about a woman who is, she's always been haunted by the death of her mother. And this whole mystery involving like a guy who wrote a book, and she has this kind of like love-life dilemma going on. It's a book that seems to have been a bit of a Marmite one, but I enjoyed it. Then I finished my first TBR book of the month, Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This was an Enright book a while ago, and oh, look at the illustrated edge. Is that what you call it? Illustrated edge? And the end papers, and oh, it's so beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful. Anyway, yes, I read it. I really enjoyed it. It's about a gal who has been brought up in a kind of orphanage type situation, and she gets a letter towards the end of the time when they're kind of going to boot her out into the world, inviting her to come live at this mysterious mansion, which has been alluded to in her mother's diary, which is the only possession she has from anyone in her family. And she's hated her time at this orphanage and she's desperate to live anywhere else. So she goes along, and it transpires that very weird and creepy things are going on at this house. I won't say any more than that because it will spoil it, but I enjoyed it a lot. Great book. Fantastic. Then I finished listening to Inferno by Eileen Myles. It's subtitled A Poet's Novel, I think. And it seems like autobiographical. It was very strange. So the author's a poet and the book is a poet journey through life in New York City, like back when yeah, like the punk movement was like a big going concern, and she's like really involved in this poetry scene, and it involves like kind of the many things she does, the parties she goes to, how she makes her way through the world as a poet, things she does for money, like how the poetry scene kind of functions. And it was a lot of fun. It was really, really listenable, like such an easy listen, just really compelling. All of these sort of like snapshots of different times. It kind of jumps around time like quite a lot. It's kind of broadly linear, but there's a few things that jump back and forth, and that's quite fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Very fun. Then I finished reading The Phoenix Keeper, which was last month's Illumicrate book. Oh, it's just so beautiful. Again, so beautiful. Has end paper illustrations of the main characters. Oh, so good, so good, so lovely. Ah. Oh yeah, and the actual like hardback. I just, wow, it's so gorgeous. Anyway, what the book is actually about, not just the aesthetic. It is a cozy fantasy romance set in a zoo full of mythical creatures. It's sort of like an alternate world. It's quite a lot like this one, so like they have computers and phones and, you know, all the stuff that we have, but it's a different world. So, you know, countries are called different things, and they have magical creatures and a whole like administration around that to kind of protect them and stop these creatures from going extinct. The main character is a phoenix keeper at this zoo. She has wanted to be a phoenix keeper her whole life, and she is really dedicated and loves her animals, but she is terrified of people. She has social anxiety that's really extreme, and that makes her behave very awkwardly and makes her very wary of anybody who is very confident. But, you know, she's really, really, really keen on saving these endangered phoenixes. It was really nice to see a character who's not like socially confident, who is kind of stuck in this kind of prison of social anxiety, and needs to finally, after kind of many years of being at home comfortable there, break out of it in order to improve her life and the lives of others. And the romance is very cute. It's not kind of heavily romancy, like the romance doesn't start till quite late on in the book, but it's very cute and very fun. There's a part near the end where it actually gets quite thrillerish and exciting, which is very nice. Yeah, enjoyed that one a lot. Really intrigued by this whole cozy fantasy genre that has popped up in recent years. This is the first book I've read that really fits that category as far as I'm aware. You know, if I think about it, I can probably think of some books that were kind of published a while ago which could be grouped in this way, but yeah, they're not, and they've never been marketed as such because it's kind of a recent term that's popped up. Then I read Free Women by Lisa Taddeo, which is sort of a non-fiction kind of literary, journalistic but also imaginative a story about free women and desire and relationships. I read this for the Gumption Club London book club. So if you follow Lena Norms, you'll know that her like Patreon thing is called the Gumption Club, and a bunch of people in London like a year ago started a book club, and I kept meaning to go, and I finally decided to go to this one. I got hold of the book on ebook from the library, and yeah, it was a book where I'm not sure I enjoyed it, but it was really good for discussion. Like, there was a lot in there. Like, I'm not sure you could enjoy a book like this because some quite, like, harrowing, depressing things happen. But there's a lot of food for thought in there, and it made for a good discussion. I enjoyed that a lot. Then I finished listening to How to Be Heard, Secrets of Powerful Speaking and Listening by Julian Treasure. This book is like, its main draw is like teaching you how to be a speaker. Like, it really, like the How to Be Heard title of that kind of reinforces that. But actually the author is more concerned with listening, and talks a lot about how in order to be a good speaker you need to be a good listener, and really goes into depth about sound. And I found that really, really fascinating. The author has done other books just about sound, which I think I would like to read, because just the way he talks about it and how the impact the sound can make on you is really, really interesting. Like, early on he talks about like what sounds make you feel like safe and calm. Turns out like the sound of waves is really good for this because it's similar to a human heartbeat, so it can make you feel like held and protected. Bird song can make you feel safe because birds usually only sing when it's safe. There's not like a big storm coming or anything like that. Yeah, I found all of that kind of detail about sound really, really interesting. So yeah, a good listen. Then I finished listening to Happy Place by Emily Henry, which was not on Audible, but it was from the library. I borrowed this a couple of months ago, didn't finish it before it went back to the library, and so I had to wait several weeks for it to come back to me, and so I could finish listening to it. But some people must have hit deliver later on Libby, because I got it much sooner than I was anticipating, and I finally got to finish it. I really enjoyed it. Not my favourite Emily Henry. My favourite Emily Henry, I think, is Book Lovers, then followed by Beach Read. This was more like You and Me on Vacation. I can't remember what it's called in like the US. You and Me on Vacation. People We Meet on Vacation, I think is what it's called in the US. But yeah, this is more sort of like that because it was just so intensely about the relationship, and it being like a long-running relationship rather than a new one. I think I'm just more into like new romances rather than second chance romances. Sometimes the second chance thing can work, but more for me, I think, when they were like friends when they were younger or something, rather than like they actually had this whole like romantic history. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I loved all the details about the friend group as well. So it's about a woman who like every year goes and stays at her friend's holiday home. It's a big tradition they have. And this year she's going again. But A, is the last time they'll ever be able to do this because the friend's parents are selling the property. And secondly, she has split up with her fiance, who was part of the group. But to keep everyone happy, they decide to pretend they have not split up. And the drama goes from there. Then I finished listening to another Audible book. I listened to Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody, which is about a girl in a world where people have like these special talents, and she has never really felt like hers are particularly good. Like hers are allegedly dancing and maths, and she's definitely not good at maths. And she's like one of the worst dancers in her school, even though she works really, really hard because there are other girls who have this special talent and it makes them much better. Her adopted mother's gone missing, so she goes to like the big dodgy city in her country in order to track her down and find out what happens. And she gets drawn into this criminal underworld. And what I really loved about this was the world building. I loved kind of the seediness of this city. It was so compellingly drawn, and how the main character gets drawn into it. It was just a really fun YA book, and I think I'm going to spend one of my Audible credits on the second one because I can't get that elsewhere. I can borrow the third one from the library, weirdly, but not the first or the second. So I'm just going to go in and buy the second and then borrow the third, and it's strange, it doesn't make sense, but that's sometimes what happens with libraries. When I was a kid, I used to read so many series out of order because the library didn't have the first one. Yeah, that's just how it is. Then I listened to Activate Your Vagus Nerve, another Audible audiobook, which was quite interesting. So it's all kind of about your parasympathetic nervous system and ways in which you can kind of trigger your body to calm down, understand it's safe, process things properly. There's a lot of information out there about the vagus nerve. It seems to be a bit of like a trendy thing to have books about because there are so many out there now. But yeah, I think this was quite a good one because it has several chapters kind of going into the science of it. And then it kind of went into the practicalities of, you know, what you can do in order to activate it. So yeah, the author themselves said if you don't care about the science, you just want to skip to the practical stuff, like jump to this chapter, which I think was quite useful and will help people engage with the book who aren't that interested in the sciencey bits. But I listened to the whole thing, so I got the whole background. I've probably already forgotten half of the science at least, but there we go. It was interesting to have all of that background information. Then I listened to the history lessons by Shalina Patel. This is a book about kind of underexplored parts of British history and underappreciated figures from British history, which includes like information from when the British Empire was a thing, and colonialism and things like that. So it touches on like the slave trade, but also like people from other parts of the British Empire who like were in what is now the UK at different times throughout history. Like it starts quite early on and kind of works its way through, and so you meet a lot of important but underappreciated women from British history, people from different countries that were taken over by the British Empire, etc., and how like they played a role in important historical events, and it's really compelling, a really easy listen / read, so I would recommend it. Then I finished another print book, Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. This is another stunningly beautiful Illumicrate edition. This was this month's Illumicrate read along book. I mean, look at that. That is just beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful. This is about a woman who is the heir to her like family's fortune and status in society, ruled by blood magic practitioners. So they're basically in the only country in the world where blood magic is allowed. Every other country, like blood magicians have been forced into hiding or thrown out. This country is basically one where they're all allowed in and allowed to be themselves and use their powers. But there's a very hierarchical society. There's a king at the top who's basically a vampire. He like drinks blood and everything. They don't use the word vampire, but he's a vampire. Nobody else seems to do it though, so yeah, they all just kind of use it for magic. And the book opens with her murdering her father so that she can take his place in the high echelons of this society. And yeah, she has this whole ambition to overthrow the king, put this other guy who she's located, who is the other main character, on the throne, and create a better society. He is not so into this idea, especially as he's been living in secret this whole time, keeping his powers secret. But yeah, there's a lot for them to work out. I am intrigued to see where the series is going to go. It is one of those books which is actually stating up front that it's a series. Here we are. It's got a 1 and this little teardrop thing here, if you can see it. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how the story develops, how things go, how this whole overthrowing the government of the day thing works out. Then I started on Christmas books. I listened to Whisked Away at Christmas. It's about a woman who enters a patisserie contest in Vienna in a bid to prove herself and get more customers to come to her cafe in Hackney, where she is the head patisserie. I don't know what you call it. Anyway, yes, baking, stuff like that, pastry making, etc. But one of her fellow contestants is her former colleague and kind of celebrity baker, and sparks fly, competition heats up, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I especially liked all the descriptions of food and the glamorous locations they got to go to in Vienna. As I say, it wasn't especially Christmassy, like not a lot of like Christmas stuff goes on, but it's very kind of like fairy tale-esque, very like wish fulfillment-y, which is something I always associate with Christmas. So maybe that's the vibe in itself. And then finally, my last book of the month, I listened to Lady Osbaldestone's Christmas Goose by Stephanie Lawrence. This is a author who writes a lot of Regency romance, but this series starring the older lady of Osbaldestone is about a wealthy lady who, in her sort of like later years, after she's been widowed, moves to live in a estate in this little village and do some meddling, basically. I can't remember what she calls it. Oh yeah, she's going to be the grande dame of this place, but yeah, basically a lot of meddling, a lot of like getting people together and solving their problems and stuff, and I loved it. Like I loved this book. It was so fun. I just loved her as this character who just like wants to sort out everybody's lives and like matchmake and meddle. It's the first out of 4. I'm definitely gonna listen to the other 3 because it was just charming. It was so fun. The Goose part is that basically she's got all of her grandchildren staying with her over Christmas because her daughter's husband has mumps, and so their 3 children, to avoid them getting mumps, have come to stay with her, which, you know, the more you think about it, like nowadays, like, this is not a good idea. Don't give the old lady mumps. But, you know, you just have to make allowances for year-oldie lack of knowledge about how disease spreads and stuff like that, and quarantine procedures. Anyway, they come to stay with her. They don't give her mumps. The guy in the village who like keeps the geese, which they're all meant to have for their Christmas dinner, alerts her to the fact that all the geese have gone missing. So, in order to amuse the children, she sets out on this quest to find out where the geese are. She, in this process, stumbles upon a lonely, scarred from some war, bachelor lord who, yeah, is surely in want of a wife, and a woman who is like pretty much single-handedly managing her late father's estate because her brother is just like too busy partying with his Oxford friends to do any of the work, and she decides to save them both from their situation by getting them together. Yeah, as I say, it was just delightful, so much fun. Loved her meddling grande dame ways. And that brings my September reading to a close. So I read a lot of books. A lot of books. What was that? That's 16 books. 16. Oh my god. 1 NetGalley book, 9 Audible books, 1 library book in print, 3 print books, 1 ebook from the library, and 1 audiobook from the library. And shout out here to Bianca, who suggested that I keep a running tally of my TBR 0 reads since I started the project, because I can't do like a kind of like counting down from all of the books because I can't add them all up because they're all in the same place and there's too many of them and it would be procrastinating from actually reading. Once they are all in the same house, I will count them up and be able to do like the countdown. That will be very exciting, gratifying and fun for everybody. But as it is, I can give you my total so far. So I have so far read 77 books since I started the TBR 0 project 15 months ago. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you would like to see more from me and you didn't do it earlier in the video when I first mentioned it. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you think of them. And if you are doing your own TBR 0 project on any form of social media or just for yourself, I would love to hear about how it's going. So yeah, leave me a comment please. You'll see me again soon. Bye!